everyone, and welcome to the Fully Booked Penguin channel. I am Hannah, and today we are up to episode 4 of Writing Nook, which is my video series chronicling my writing journey. And today we are delving into character profiles and what I do in that aspect. I love making character sheets because I always come up with new characters and like new traits, new plot. One of these characters, he's just a minor character, but his motivation, I love it so much. The connections between characters. And it just sort of hit me as I was making his little profile, because there's a connection with several different characters. But I was like, okay, so if he currently is in this role, that means he had to train as something. And that training led to the connection between these other two characters, and now it all makes sense. The plot is plotting, the characters are charactering. I'm so excited to continue writing this book. Book 2. I love it so much already. Are you meant to love your own books this much? Yes. Yes, you are. And it's okay. I'm also listening to the Deepspace First Echoes, which is the Love and Deepspace soundtrack. These are the kind of vibes you need while writing, and it's giving. Should I actually be writing a chapter? Yes. But sometimes you need the bones to create the being, you know? And if you don't have that structure, the rest will flop in. It will be a floppy fish. So you need that bone structure. Just ignore the nonsense I'm pouring out of my mouth. I'm just excited, okay? Ah, yes. Connections! Alright, let me go back to my music and my character, and just great, isn't it? Oh. Hey there, so I thought I would bring you today to go through my character profile templates. Now, I'm going to warn you, it's not fancy, it's pretty straightforward. There's no insert images here or anything like that, it's just the facts. So I can keep track of the basic information of each character and what I plan to do with them. Obviously, this is just the characters. I have a lot to keep track of, where they are, what their purpose is. And though I want to do it, I haven't quite got my countries together or my book templates together. So we're just doing character profiles today. Now, I do use OneNote, which is the free Microsoft thing. I just find it easy to access and use from whichever device I'm using, whether it's my computer, my phone, or my tablet. It all syncs together and it's just easy. I know there's probably more fancy, better programs out there, but for now, I'm just using this. I usually store most of my documents offline, but for this, to get it all synced together so it's easily, I can just write in a few notes here and there without having to go and sit out my computer. Anyway, I have two kinds of templates for the characters. I have a minor character template, which only has the basic rundown on one page. And then I have, for my main characters, I have like a main page, which is names, etc. Then I have the appearance page, a relationships page, and then a history and personality page. So you'll see that all now. Obviously, I have edited this document a little bit because I don't want you to see the name of the series and the little extra details I have in the actual one. So this is, I've changed it to be super basic compared to having all the spoilers in it. Because you don't need to know the country names at this point, okay? It's still under wraps. Soon you'll know, okay? But you don't need to know all that right now. Or the groups, the guilds. You don't need to know that yet. As I said, it's a very simple breakdown. And I'm sure there are way more in-depth profiles, but I don't necessarily like the ones which are like, let's interview your character. I'm like, why do we need to interview my character? I can just know what they are. It helps some people, but not me. I'm like, why do I need to know all this random stuff about them? It's not really relevant to the plot. So I'll go through the main character profile with the 4 sections first, because the other minor character one is just a condensed version. For the page name, I usually have the character name and then dash main page or dash appearance. The given name section, so I'll have their first and last name that is current. In aliases and nicknames, I have either their maiden name if they are now married, and then their nicknames or whatever else they can think of. Then I have their role/official titles. For example, the king would have King of England dash His Royal Majesty King blah blah blah. I also have sometimes what group or what place they're working at. For example, if they're working on a ship, then I would have cook dash ship name. And so I have current and former roles there, and then I have their gender, obviously, and then their birthday, which I use day, month, year, because I'm Australian and I don't do the American version. Then I have their nationality, their birthplace, and then I link to the other pages. The appearance, the relationships, history, skills, and moral values. I have which books they appear in, which will eventually link to the book page, but for now it's just there. So it just tells me where they appear, how many books they appear in, so I can keep track of where they are and what they're doing. So that's page 1, which is the main page. Then we get to appearances. I do pick and choose what I want in profiles, and a lot of them had height and weight, and I was like, why do I need to know their kilogram weight? Like, do I really need to know that? No. Does anyone need to know that? Am I ever going to write down the exact weight of a person in my books? No. It seems a little irrelevant unless they're a doctor and they're like, you are this many kilograms. You know, it's never going to happen in my books. So instead, we just have height, which sometimes I just say they're tall. I leave it at that. But sometimes I do just do the rough heights. Mainly with the main characters, I do put the height just so I can sort of have a visualization of what heights they all are. Then I have body type. So in the body type, that's usually where I put their build, or whether they're slight of frame or big boned or what kind of look they have bodily. I have hair color, hairstyle. If they have different hairstyles, I'll have normal. Then I'll go to description or special occasion description. Or if they have a tendency to dye their hair, I will make a note saying they do tend to dye their hair different colors depending on their situation, mood. Then we have eye color, very important. Then we have ancestral or racial details, so that means where they come from. So for example, 1/4 Korean, 3/4 Australian. And then I'd have details on what features from that race or ethnicity each character has. I also have skin tone, so I can keep track of whether they're tanners or burners. I am a burner, my brother is a tanner, so I need to know that in case they're in the sun for a long time and one of them should have been burnt to a crisp by now and I just haven't remembered. And then I have scars and tattoos where I will have location and then when they got it, whether it was before their appearance in, say, book 2. If I know the exact year or date, then I will put that in instead, but most of the time it's just a rough before this book or after this event in this book. And then of course I describe the scar wound or tattoo. And then next up we have the outfits. Most of them don't really need an outfit section, but just in case I have described an outfit which they would then wear again, I have the description there so I can be like, if I need to add a detail about what they're wearing later it is all succinct. For example, he buttoned up this shirt or whatever, and everyone else is like, but it was like a tunic style thing with no buttons last time we saw it. And that's it for appearances. Again, pretty simple. Alright, next up we have the relationships page. I like to keep track of people's ancestry, but not to the point where I'm like, everyone needs to have this. Now with the parents and siblings and relatives section, I like to keep track of it because a lot of the time I do have those parents or siblings appearing in the books. And so I like to know what kind of relationship my character has with each of them. So I have the role, so like mother, father, older sister, second cousin. Whether it's a brief mention or they really go into detail, it focuses on the relationship. Either way, I have where it was featured. So then I would have book name, next book name, if they continue to appear, or focus on that relationship during that book. So yes, I have parents, then siblings, then relatives, and then we get into the funner side, the one I do a lot of detailing because there's a lot of connections connecting all over the place with this one. First up, we have their relationship status, whether they're single, dating, crushing on someone, married. Usually if it's crushing or, you know, they're not actually dating someone but they're liking someone, usually I'll just put single. But then in romantic partners section, I would have crush, then the name of that crush, and link it to the other person's profile. Then I have when they met that person, and then what books the relationship is featured in. And then I go into detail, like who liked who first, how they feel about each other, what developments the relationship has taken. However, if their relationship had a time or sort of status before they started dating or liking each other, I will have a green text that will say main relationship profile below, and then I will have what section it's under, whether it's friends, enemies, allies, because obviously the majority of their relationship isn't romance. It's friendship or relying on each other while they, I don't know, battle. And then next we have the friends section. Again, we'd either have best friend, friend, childhood friend, and then I add when they met, whether it was childhood, teen, adulthood, or work. And then I have the name and a link it. And again, when they met, what books it's featured in, and then a description of the relationship. And if it changes, and it's not to the romance section, but it just changes over time, I will have any major changes with the relationship and then the book era. And then I will note what changed about their relationship during that time. And then we move on to the allied section, which can either be like work colleagues, political contacts, or even personal ones, which is like, oh, they're a friend of dad's kind of thing. And if it's work or personal, I'll add a dash and then say the group name or the workplace name. And then, of course, link of that contact's name. And everything else is the same as the previous relationship things. And then we have the final section, which is enemies and other. So usually in here, I'll put that it's awkward, or we are enemies, or we are rivals, that sort of thing. As you can see, one of my examples is former friend. So it's like a friend that you were close with and then it's gone, and it's a bit messy. So that's the final bit of that relationship page. And finally, we move on to our history, personality, and moral beliefs page. So obviously I have the history timeline first. So in it, I merely have the date, the month, and then dash, born in, town name, country name, to mother, father name. And so it can be fairly long. I can put as much or as little events into the history timeline, and it's just a simple line. But then we have the major events. So that's if, say, the main character was kidnapped, I would have kidnapped, and then I have a description of the event. So they were kidnapped by blank group for the purpose of blank. And then I've got a section for related skills, traits, or relationships, in which case I'll say, well, obviously they met this person, so they gained relationship with blank. Or they learned how to use a dagger during that time, so their skill would be using dagger. And I would do a separate entry for each major event. I've got yellow highlight for like pre the first book, and then the first book, second book. Then obviously from those major events, I would know certain skills the character has. So in the section below that, I go into detail on what those skills are like. So that's like weaponry, languages or abilities, and so then I'll just say what section it's under and then the weapon or the language. And then I describe the skill, where they learnt it, why they learnt it, and the level of proficiency they have in it. Below that, we have beliefs and personality section. So what they like, what they don't like. Say if they liked wearing black clothing, this is where I would put it. Or if they prefer to eat sweet food, I would have a note in here to keep track that they like sweet food. Because it does happen sometimes you're like, oh, the character doesn't drink alcohol, and then later on they're drinking alcohol, and you're like, oh, but like you said earlier that they had a conviction against drinking alcohol. So I put it all in here. And then I have whether that phobia or love is innate, as in they've always had it, or whether it was developed after a certain event, those sort of details. And then below that, I have goals. So what they're sort of striving for, whether it's to own a boat, or to go live on an island, or, you know, defeat a certain person, or learn a certain skill. I will have that under their goals and I will list it out. And then I will say whether they've achieved that goal already or whether they're still working on it. And that's pretty much our main characters, 4 pages. And then for the minor characters, it's all just on 1 page. And it's pretty much got the same information but simplified. So I've got the same pretty much first page stuff, only without the linking to other pages. Character appearance is pretty much the same. I've got the relationships, but I've just got the romantic one, and then all the family, friends, allies, enemies is all under the 1 section. So I just would say in that first bit, I'd have enemy, adulthood, and then link the named person. And then finally I have the history, personality, which is pretty much the same. As for the minor characters' page name, usually I'll have their name, of course, and then I will have dash, and then what sort of role they have. Whether it's Blank's husband or Blank's bodyguard, King's assistant. Pretty much just a simple reminder of who they are and what relation to the story. And so yeah, that's my character profiles. Some go into great detail, others are pretty simple detailed, but I do have fun. As I say, it's simple, but do you really need tons of detail when you're just needing the facts straight? Probably not. Obviously, when I get art made for some of the main characters, I will add it in just so I have the visual as well, because that's cool. And I'm sure the design could be way prettier, but do I need it to be pretty or functional? And I've decided that functionality is over looks at this point in time. And as I say, I'm pretty much always developing the template and changing it around, and then I have to go in and change everyone's profiles again. But it's fun. So that's how I do it. And that is a wrap on Writing Nook episode 4. So we just had a little fun time going through my templates, and before that just showcasing how much fun I have when I am doing the profiles. Because while the templates are simple enough, they do get the creative juices flowing, and I have so much fun doing them and having the time of my life as a little creative writer. But that's it for this episode. Next episode we'll be delving into my writing goals for 2025, which is exciting and daunting at the same time. But until next time, peace!
티니 로그 끝.